Hello, and welcome again to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley Social Distancing Virtual Service. It's been an eventful week with Cinco de Mayo, as well as Star Wars Day on the 4th, culminating with today's celebration of motherhood. I hope all of the mothers in our congregation have a wonderful day. I also hope you've been able to keep yourselves entertained while staying safe. We come together this morning because within us there is something that knows we need more than we can find in our aloneness. We know instinctively in the depths of ourselves that we need others for this journey of life, even though we also guard our independence and individuality quite jealously. So let us celebrate all that makes us unique, yet all that makes us one, and let us dream dreams of all that we can do together. Our church does great things together, and I want you to know that each of us is hoping to be together again soon. The board has been in communication regarding how our services may begin changing once again, with the possibility of a live gathering in the not too distant future. Be on the lookout for communication. We are, however, very aware that every individual must make their own choices regarding the health and safety of themselves and their families. To that end, we will not allow our community to separate between those who feel safe in small gatherings and those who do not. We will continue to make every effort to include everyone. I hope you enjoy today's service with special musical guest Andy Gwynn, whom we have just heard. And once again, happy Mother's Day.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Michael Carter, and I have the privilege of serving this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley. I want to light our chalice and welcome you all here this morning. Our opening words are from Unitarian Universalist David C. Pohl. We come to this time and to this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of a free religious community, to renew our faith in holiness, goodness, and the beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and the open heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair, with all of her people joined as one.
This is hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
My name is Joy, and I joined the church maybe around October, and I felt like I had come home in a way. I had such a good feeling about Michael and about so many of the people that I got to talk to. So extremely grateful, and I only live about 4 minutes away. So there's a book that I loved to read to my sons and thought it could be sweet for you to hear it being read to you. It's called On the Night You Were Born. On the Night You Were Born. On the Night You Were Born by Nancy Tillman. On the night you were born, the moon smiled with such wonder that the stars peeked in to see you, and the night wind whispered, life will never be the same, because there had never been anyone like you ever in the world. So enchanted with you were the wind and the rain that they whispered the sound of your wonderful name. The sound of your name is a magical one. Let's say it out loud before we go on. You. It sailed through the farmland, high on the breeze. Who in the world is exactly like you? Who? 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 Over the ocean and through the trees, until everyone heard it and everyone knew of the one and only ever you. Not once had there been such eyes, such a nose, such silly, wiggly, wonderful toes. In fact, I think I'll count to three so you can wiggle your toes for me. When the polar bears heard, they danced until dawn. From faraway places, the geese flew home. The moon stayed up until morning next day. And none of the ladybugs flew away. So whenever you doubt just how special you are, and you wonder who loves you, how much and how far, listen for geese honking high in the sky. They're singing a song to remember you by. Or notice the bears asleep at the zoo. It's because they've been dancing all night for you. Or drift off to sleep to the sound of the wind. Listen closely. It's whispering your name again. You. If the moon stays up until morning one day, or a ladybug lands and decides to stay, or a little bird sits at your window a while, it's because they're all hoping to see you smile. For never before in story or rhyme, not even once upon a time, has the world ever known a you, my friend, and it never will, not ever again. Heaven blew every trumpet and played every horn on the wonderful, marvelous night you were born. So keep that in mind forever. Can't wait to see you guys in person.
Our reading number 573 is for today. It's called a Mother's Day Proclamation. It's by Unitarian Universalist Julia Ward Howell. Arise then, women of this day. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, of mercy, and patience. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our town, and it says, disarm, disarm. As men have forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of counsel. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, and each bearing after her own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God.
Thought I saw you in the distance, across a crowded airport mall, in the confusion of connection. You must have missed my call. As I wander in between the faces in this dream, I search in vain, it's you I'm looking for. Did I see you in the distance? Did you never hear my call? Did I lose you in the distance? Were you ever there at all? a mathematical equation. This is the law that rules our lives, a formula for separation, a function of distance, rate, and time. Our molecules collect then scatter on the wind like vapor trails across the painted sky. Did I see you in the distance? Did you never hear my call? Did I lose you in the distance? Were you ever there at all? Were you ever there at all? Were you ever there at all? They tell me that the universe is growing and expanding, but I don't have a clue just what that means. It seems the forces are conspiring to increase the space between. This separation ever growing, I am past the point of knowing whether these illusions ever end. Are you only disappearing in the distance again? In the distance again. There's only space and time between us, the shadows of our unlived lives. Only distance between us. The only question is why. Answers that could ease us only tease us, never please us. The questions won't release us. Still we try, still we try. Did I see you in the distance? Did you never hear my call? Did I lose you in the distance? Were you ever there at all? 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 Were you ever there at all?
Now is the time in our service when we ask members and friends to share the joys and concerns that are in their hearts. We received 2 this week, although we know that there are many more in the congregation that were not sent in. Corey Seithel wrote to let us know of the passing of her step-grandfather this week. She would like to light a candle for him in both joy and grief, because he is now at peace, but his family will miss him always.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ann Silman. I have a concern or a sorrow, sort of a concern mostly. My son, Walter Silman, is in a nursing home in California, and he has informed me that that nursing home now has been infected with the coronavirus. There are 5 or 6 people in that nursing home already seriously ill. He's very concerned, which of course makes me very concerned. There's nothing I can do about it. We have prayed together about it, and that's all. And I ask all of you for your beautiful thoughts and concerns for him and for everybody else in all nursing homes that are infected with viruses. Thank you very much. Bye.
For those of you who did not send in a joy or concern, please know that we hold you in our hearts.
I want to share with you a prayer by a Unitarian Universalist minister. Her name is Kathleen Rollins. This is just so beautiful. So please center yourself in the way that you're most comfortable. And after the prayer, we will have our usual time of silence. Spirit of life, you've been a father and a mother to us all. We enter into this time of silence and reflection with mixed emotions. This is Mother's Day, a day set aside to honor, celebrate, and in some cases, simply to reflect on those women who gave us birth. Some of us come to this day with joy, with strong and tender feelings for the women who have earned the right to be called mother. They not only gave us our lives, they are responsible for shaping our spirit. They have fed with us, they have played with us, they've nurtured us, and they've listened to us. They have given unselfishly for us, and they have loved us unconditionally. If our mothers are still living, we make the extra effort to stay in touch. And we find ways to give back a portion of the love which we have so abundantly received. If our mothers have died, we take time to cherish our memories of them. Memories which may flood our eyes with bittersweet tears of longing. We miss her, and we feel that loss even more acutely on this day, while also being grateful for her strength and her wisdom and her beauty and the gifts of life which she passed on to us. But for others, this day is not a time for celebration, but rather a time of reflection. Perhaps we cannot bring ourselves to buy that Hallmark card, the one that waxes poetically about a mother's love or her presence in our lives. Rather, we feel her absence through death or indifference. We may have complicated, difficult, unhappy associations with mother. Instead, we may use this time to reflect on those who have mothered us, the women in our lives who have shown their love for us, whether through motherhood or mentoring, those tough, gentle, truth-telling, loving, wise, whimsical women who have served as our teachers, our mentors, our guides, and our friends. And on this Mothering Day, may we also remember the great mother that sustains us, whose body is the very substance of our existence, the very ground we walk upon, the very source of our being. From whatever place of the Spirit we come this morning, let us once again enter into a time of silence, knowing that in this silence, this is where great things fashion themselves. And now, for a brief moment, while our minds are one, I leave you all with the eloquence of silence. Amen. There are some who attribute the Mother's Day celebration to Unitarian Julia Ward Howe. Julia Howe began Mother's Day as a part of an international peace movement after the Civil War. Howe believed that mothers understood the real lessons of loss from the war, where needless deaths occurred for mothers across the land. Howe is also noted for writing the lyrics to the Battle Hymn of the Republic in her work as an abolitionist. Her own mother died when she was 5 years old, and her first child was christened by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Theodore Parker in the city of Rome in 1844. Howe and her family were in Italy that year, and Theodore Parker happened to be visiting as well. Howe was the mother of 5 children. The 6th child died in early childhood. And in 1870, she wrote a Mother's Day proclamation to a call for women to oppose war and to promote peace in their families and their own political lives. She envisioned the first Mother's Day as a time for women to gather, a time to grieve, and to determine a peaceful solution to war. In 1873, women in 18 American cities held Mother's Day peace gatherings. However, during Howe's lifetime, there was never any formal recognition of Mother's Day, no Hallmark card moments, as it did not become an official holiday until 1915. So now enter Ms. Anna Jarvis. Ms. Jarvis is called the mother of modern day Mother's Day celebrations. When Anna's mother died in 1905, she asked the minister of her church to give a ceremony in memory of her mother. She and others petitioned congressmen to set aside a day to honor mothers. And in 1910, the governor of West Virginia proclaimed the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day. And a year later, every state followed suit. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson made Mother's Day a national holiday occurring on the second Sunday, beginning May 1915. Mother's Day is still the most popular day of the year to dine out in the United States. And you see, there's a certain irony in women petitioning men in power to honor mothers. Mothers who gave birth to these men with political power, mothers who loved and lost and grieved children and husbands and fathers and mothers and friends and lovers to a war that men started. As Morpheus says from the movie The Matrix, life has a sense of irony. Is being pregnant with a child or trying to raise a child during a pandemic more difficult than any other time? The story above that I just read acknowledges trying to raise a child or being a mother in a time of war. And being a man in this incarnation, I would imagine yes and no. Are the issues surrounding relationships with mothers different in a time of pandemic? Again, I would answer yes and no. The Reverend Lynn Ungar, a UU minister, says that Mother's Day sermons are difficult. And I happen to agree wholeheartedly. For every person who brings a mother to church, physically or emotionally, that is cherished, that is loved and appreciated, there are always others who are scarred from the inadequate jobs their mothers did in raising them. The same can also be said of fathers. Perhaps this is true due to the high expectations we have of our mothers. I mean, after all, they're only human beings. Well, now it's Mother's Day again. And it can be sometimes difficult to not say the same things over and over on holidays like Mother's Day and Father's Day, even if it's said in different ways. But this is the task of the minister on holidays like this one. I've heard some ministers who say they will try to be out of town that Sunday, or maybe they try not to put that Sunday on their schedules to preach a Mother's Day sermon or to do a Mother's Day service. Now, this can be for many reasons. Maybe it's the relationships that they've had with their mom. Lots of them feel that this holiday is just a commercial gimmick. a manipulation of our emotions and sentiments by the retailing industry in order to boost their profits. And there are lay people, I'm sure, who feel the same way. Personally, I'm not sure I would make such a blanket statement, and I feel that it is good to celebrate and acknowledge our personal lives in our communities. In our everyday lives, we are inundated with a steady diet of bad news, whether it's the virus, disaster reports, crime stories and statistics, dire predictions of future troubles, economic woes, health warnings, children and spousal abuse. It goes on, the list goes on and on. The bad news overwhelms the good news most, if not all, of the time. And I'm not talking about being Pollyanna here. We know that not everything on the planet or everyone is sugar and spice and everything nice. There is bad news, there's misery and pain and injustices in the world, and they must be taken seriously. We must correct these wrongs. We must at least attempt to relieve the suffering and correct injustice. Yet in order to do this, we must envision different possibilities, right? The psalmist in the book of Proverbs, we're told, where there's no vision, the people perish. To correct injustice, we must be able to envision justice. To relieve suffering, we must be able to envision wholeness and healing. We must be able to envision the world as we want it to be. We must have faith and hope in the good, even as we acknowledge the not so good. We must learn to believe that good defeated is still more powerful than so-called evil triumphant. And so today, we acknowledge, and some will no doubt celebrate, Mother's Day. We don't have to let Hallmark or Macy's or Victoria's Secret or our own guilt feelings define our behavior or impinge on our ability to celebrate or not, as we see fit. We don't have to over sentimentalize. Sentiment is good. We can be romantic and loving and poetic and syrupy, yes, even corny. And we can also be truthful. We can create joy while acknowledging pain. We can celebrate how far we've come and how far we have to go. We can celebrate the tender and the tough. As far as Mother's Day is concerned, we all have one thing in common. We all have had or still do have biological mothers. Now, after that, our experiences are many and diverse. Some of us had loving, nurturing mothering, be it from a biological or an adopted mother. Some of us have not been so fortunate as we've been abused and neglected. We may not have had the tender, loving, and caring when we so wanted and needed it and richly deserved it. And there are times when saying mother did the best she could is just inadequate. It's simply not enough. We acknowledge that. Many of us here, but perhaps not all of us, may feel that motherhood should be a choice. Many of us feel that a woman should have the right to make that choice for herself. And ideally, in a perfect world in which we are not, the choice would be made with a lifelong partner, and both would nurture and support each other and the child. Sadly, this is not always a possibility. There are accidental pregnancies. Some single women choose to have a child without their partner. Parents split up, or perhaps a woman may not have the physical, emotional, or economic resources necessary to be an adequate parent. Mothering is extremely difficult to do alone. Extremely difficult. And it is extremely difficult to do in the most ideal circumstances. And many times mothers have to stand alone against the millions of dollars spent annually on advertising campaigns directed at children. At times their mothers are being blamed at 50 for decisions they made at 20. Many children and adults are still believing in the myth and searching for the perfect mother. And let's face it, it's a tough job. Supportive husbands or partners, good schools, and safe neighborhoods can be in short supply. So are understanding employees or employers or helpful neighbors and extended families. Home is no longer a sanctuary from the forces outside of it. It's a mess sometimes, yet who else is in charge of nurturing the culture? Too often, the mother who is labeled neglectful is simply overwhelmed. And if we have unresolved negative feelings about our mothers, we will carry them over into our own parenting. In order to avoid mistakes, we may overcompensate to avoid them. Mothers may feel that their children are judging them as they judge their own mothers, and they all come up found wanting. Mothers may strive so hard to be the perfect parent that the children will live stressful and tension-filled lives. The truth of the matter is this: we did not, and we do not have perfect mothers, or fathers for that matter. We will not be, and are not, perfect children. We are not perfect parents, and our children aren't perfect either. Children need people who care for them, as do adults. We never grow out of the need to be caring and respectful and in right relationship with others. We all need to be loved, just as we are, with no need to have to win approval and no need to be judged. We need to be able to give this kind of love as well. We all have a need to be hugged and comforted and held close. We all have times when we're vulnerable. We need someone to believe in us so that we can believe in ourselves. We all need to develop our own ethical and moral values and standards, but we can't do that alone, nor should we have to. And that's what Mother's Day is about, or at least can be about. Celebrating motherhood in all of its truths, imperfections, and needs. Celebrating them too. It's moments of true love and tenderness we celebrate, the frustrations, the humor, the work, and the play. We can if we want to, but we don't have to buy candy or go to the florist. We can make our own traditions, recognize old ones, and even start new ones. Let's also remember the problems that some children face. Indeed, there are inadequate parents, abusive parents, sick parents. There are ignorant or selfish, irresponsible parents, parents that are missing in action. But we have to remember that hurt people hurt people. Some of us here today may have been the victim of these types of parents. Society at large provides inadequate response and support for families in need, especially, not limited to, but especially single-parent families. Children and mothers comprise the largest percentage of the indigent in our nation, and they are increasingly scapegoated and victimized by some of our more conservative politicians, and are treated as a motive for opportunity for merely indifference. My wish, my prayer, is that our society will wake up, that our society will give increasing support and education and counseling to all mothers and fathers, to all parents. Affordable housing and health care and child care would help immensely as well. Employers finding more creative ways for parents to have jobs and to be able to maintain a family. And what a concept, maybe even take a vacation once in a while. Mothering is to be respected, as it is very important and vital work. Children being appreciated and cared for ensure a positive future for all of us. Parenting is to be valued, as we as a congregation work to continue to provide a welcoming, safe, and nurturing place where children and adults can learn to grow in understanding and courage and compassion and goodness and grace. We are creating a better future for our children and for our world. And so in this sense, may all our celebrations lead us to love. For those of you who are parents out there, remember that one day we will pass on. Right now, some of us are the elders, and we will one day be the ancestors, and we will make mistakes, and we must learn to forgive ourselves as well as others. And I pray that we have the courage to do that. I pray that we will want to have the strength to love. That can be difficult enough at times, depending on what wounds we have. But I'm just hoping and praying that it is simply that we desire to have the desire to have the strength to love. And for some of us, that is the most difficult part. Not the loving, but even wanting to love. For if we really search ourselves and are honest with ourselves, we can acknowledge that in this life, there are still people that we simply don't wish to love. There, I said it for you and for myself. It's a journey. But I remind you again that one day, someday, we will all return to the Great Mother, and that will be a homecoming indeed. So why not try to love before that homecoming while we are still here to set that example? So on this day, I salute you, mothers, and salute all those who have mothered us during our lives. Teachers, clergy, blame takers, risk takers, guardians, role models, nurturers, defenders, life givers, those who have disciplined us for our own good. Like us, they were not perfect. They are the voices in our head, though, that won't go away. Indeed, they are humanity itself. And so I wish you on this Mother's Day a gentle peace and a happy Mother's Day to you all. And I light this candle for all the mothers and mentors and nurturers that we have known in our lives. Happy Mother's Day, and have a wonderful afternoon.
This is hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
Well, another Mother's Day has come and gone. Well, not quite gone, but it's here. Whatever you do today, do it with a sense of peace and love as best you can. Because when all of this is over, the only thing that will have mattered is how we treated one another. Happy Mother's Day to all.
Summer's in, around the bend, just flying. Swimming suits are or on the line just drying. I'll meet you there for our conversation. I hope I didn't ruin your whole vacation, where you never know how far from home you're feeling until you watch the shadows cross the ceiling. Well, I don't know, but I can see it snowing in your car. The windows are wide open. Just come on home. Come on home. You don't have to be alone. Just come on home. Valentines break hearts and minds at random. That old Easter egg ain't got a leg to stand on. Well, I can see that you can't win for trying, and New Year's Eve bound to leave you crying. Come on home. Come on home. You don't have to be alone. Just come on home. The moon and stars hang out in bars just talking. I still love that picture of us walking, just like that old house we thought was haunted. Summer's in, came faster than we wanted. So come on home. Come on home. You don't have to be alone. Just come on home. Come on home. No, you don't have to be alone. Just come on home.